Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into something that's, well, absolutely critical for anyone with a flock of chickens or other poultry. We're building a practical field guide, how to spot, how to understand, and most importantly, how to prevent the common diseases that can threaten your birds.
Okay, here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we're going to tackle the most important skill you can have, just by telling a healthy bird from a sick one. Then we'll dive deep into prevention, because trust me, an ounce of it is worth a pound of cure here. After that, we need to know what we're fighting, so we'll classify the enemy. And finally, we'll get into the good stuff, opening up some real case files on common diseases so you know exactly what to look for.
You know, before you can even think about fixing a problem, you've got to know what good looks like, right? This is the absolute foundation of managing a healthy flock. Being able to walk out to your coop and instantly get a feel for who's doing great and who might be struggling, that's a superpower. So let's build that skill right now.
And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, that's your gold standard, an active, bright-eyed bird that's part of the group. That's your baseline. But on the right, those are the red flags. And that last one, being isolated, that's a huge tell. Birds are prey animals, so their instinct is to hide any weakness. A bird that separates itself from the flock is practically screaming that something is wrong. That's your cue to step in.
Okay, so you've got your observation skills dialed in. You can spot trouble. But what if you could stop that trouble from ever starting? That's where the real power is. Prevention is your first, your best, and frankly, your cheapest line of defense.
Think of this as your 5-point plan for a fortress flock. At the very bottom, the foundation is cleanliness. Simple, but so important. Right above that, clean food and water. That's a non-negotiable. And then we get to biosecurity. This is a big one. It means you treat your flock like a protected zone. Any new birds? They go into quarantine. No excuses. See a sick bird? Isolate it immediately. That one action could literally save the rest of your flock.
Okay, so we know how to spot a sick bird, and we've got our prevention plan. But what are we actually fighting against? To be really effective, you have to understand what's causing the problem in the first place. You can't fight an enemy you don't know.
So this chart, it's like a most wanted list for poultry diseases. You've got your big-time criminals, the viruses, like Ranikhet and Fowl Pox. Then you've got bacteria, fungus, and parasites. But look over at protozoa. We're definitely going to talk about Coccidiosis. That's a huge one. And what's really interesting is that sometimes the threat isn't an invader at all. Look at the nutritional column. Sometimes the problem starts right in the feed bowl.
All right, enough with the theory. Let's get our hands dirty and look at some real-world examples. This is where it gets really interesting. Being able to look at a sick bird and have a pretty good idea of what's going on, that's a total game changer. So let's open the case files.
First up is a big one. Ranikhet, also known as Newcastle disease. And let me tell you, this is the one you really don't want to mess with. It's a virus, it's incredibly contagious, and it hits the bird's respiratory, nervous, and digestive systems all at once. It can sweep through a flock in no time.
The signs of Ranikhet are just devastating. You'll see birds gasping for air, sure, but the absolute dead giveaway? It's the neurological stuff. The paralysis is bad enough, but that characteristic twisting of the head and neck? When you see that, you're almost certainly looking at Ranikhet. And I'm sorry to say, the mortality rate is incredibly high.
And here's the tough part, the thing you absolutely have to understand about Ranikhet: there is no cure. By the time you see symptoms, it's pretty much too late. Your only defense is prevention, and that means being diligent about vaccination. You can see the schedule right here. It starts when they're just tiny chicks. This is not optional if you want to protect your flock. Okay, let's switch gears to another virus, Fowl Pox. Now, this one is a totally different animal compared to Ranikhet. It's usually not as deadly, but it can still make your birds miserable and really impact their health and egg production.
The calling card for Fowl Pox is these nasty wart-like sores. You'll spot them on the featherless parts of the bird, the comb, the wattles, around the beak. That's what we call the dry form. But there's also a wet form, which is way more serious, where those lesions are inside the mouth and throat. Either way, you can bet your egg production is going to take a nosedive.
So, sound familiar? Just like with Ranikhet, vaccination is king. It's your #1 defense. There is no magic pill to cure it. But, and here's the key difference, unlike Ranikhet, you can provide supportive care that actually helps. Gently cleaning those sores with a mild antiseptic can prevent secondary infections and help the bird fight off the virus.
All right, for our last case file, we're throwing a curveball. We're talking about Coccidiosis, and this one is a total game changer. because we're not dealing with a virus anymore. This is a tiny, single-celled parasite that loves to live in a bird's intestines. It's super common, and it can be especially deadly for young chicks.
Listen up, because this is important. If you see bloody droppings, especially in your brooder with young chicks, your alarm bells should be screaming coccidiosis. That is the classic textbook sign. The parasite damages the gut lining, so you'll see all the usual signs of a sick bird: huddled, ruffled feathers, not eating, but that bloody diarrhea is the real smoking gun.
Now here's where coccidiosis is different, and it's a big deal. Prevention is all about sanitation. This parasite thrives in warm, damp, dirty bedding. So a clean, dry coop is your #1 weapon. But, and this is a big but, unlike those viruses we talked about, we actually have weapons to fight this thing. There are specific medications you can give them in their water that are really effective at both treating and preventing it. So, we've gone through a ton of information today, from spotting signs of trouble to understanding these invisible enemies. But knowledge is useless unless you act on it, right? So I want you to think about this. What's the one thing, the single most important step you can take for your flock right now, today, to make them safer? Is it a deep clean of the coop? A call to your vet about vaccines? A better quarantine plan? Just pick one thing and start there. Because a healthy flock always starts with one person making one good decision. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.